everyone, welcome back to the DUOL Podcast, where we have real conversations, real people talk, and where real growth begins. Today I am joined by amazing people who are not so new. I'm sure you've seen them in many other podcasts. And the last time we were here with Teddy and we were unpacking youth and politics, where we were trying to see how the young people are frustrated with the leadership of today. But now, today we have an amazing guest. Drum rolls. Yes. who is from a different generation. We used to introduce her. You know, miwani. So you address as daktari, become as a professor. Yeah, so we have a guest who is the category of the boomers. Yeah, so we're going to hear the perspective from a point of leadership and the ethical perspective from him. And so he's going to introduce himself, then we can begin.
Okay, I'm Odi the Villager. Odi the Villager is a musician, a producer, but also Odi the Villager has a longer history. Been in the military. I retired from the Kenya. That time we were called Kenya Armed Forces. Nowadays Kenya Defense Forces. I was the chief sergeant at the Forces Memorial Hospital for over 10 years before I retired, and I was there for about almost 25 years. That's a quarter of a century. Yeah, I'm a medical officer, surgeon specifically, an orthopedic and trauma surgeon. Yeah, so that's what I come up with. Before that, I was youth. I like reminding people that as much as you see us in what we are now, this is what we call vijana wa jana.
Okay. Vijana wa jana. Sasa sisi vijana wa leo.
Vijana wa leo. Na pia kuna vijana wa kesho.
Okay.
Wale mnaita Gen
Alpha.
Yes. Vijana wa kesho.
Hao vijana wa kesho wanatushtua. Kama watakuwa vijana. Yeah, lakini tutaona. I forgot to introduce myself. I am Christine Lugendo. I'm going to be your host today, and we have
I'm Teddy, Teddy Ucheng.
Yeah.
Nimesikia hiyo intro. Kasema tu mimi youth wa sasa.
Ndio.
Yes, I'm a youth.
Yes, youth wa sasa. So karibuni sana. So we were unpacking about youth and politics, and we looked at we talked about the frustration that is going on, the high cost of living, the feeling it's like we're feeling unheard, and the disconnection between the youth and the leadership of today. But today we have someone now to just pour wisdom into us, and we're going to give him a chance to tell us what he thinks from his standing point, what he sees when he sees us young people and how we are carrying all this.
That's quite a lot.
Yeah.
I would want you to put it that you are giving me just to tell you.
Okay.
But I would rather make it a continued conversation.
Okay.
Because like I say, and it's very deliberate the way I put it, that there was vijana wa jana, that is us, and people preceded us, and then vijana wa leo, that is the youth of now, and vijana wa kesho.
Yeah.
Because there is a similarity. There's a similarity. The youth are usually very vibrant and quite proactive, because more often than not they form a very huge category of the population.
Yeah.
Like in Kenya now, the statistics tell us that those who are below 35 are actually 80% of the population. In fact, if you extend the figure to 45, because that is now sometimes what people say is the end of youth, it might also almost be like 90. For me, somebody over 65, we actually form about 2.5 to 3% of the population, those who are 65 and above. So we are very few, and according to the statistics, like the Bible says, God gives you up to 70. So statistically, just remaining with maybe a few years I can count in in one hand. Beyond that, that's a bonus. So you'll find at my age, what happens 10 years from now, 20, 30 years, is not so critical. I'm more worried about what will happen to my children who are either your age or older slightly, and their children. Okay? So that means that the conversation should not revolve so much around us, but it should still revolve around you.
Okay.
And you should ask, what do you want? Okay? Maybe that is what we should start with. What do you want? And then from my point of view, then I can tell you, oh, that one we tried. That one we tried.
Okay.
So maybe what do you want?
Teddy, we are the youth. Today we are not just youth.
Vijana wa leo.
Yes. Vijana wa leo. So what do you want?
Tunataka power.
Lakini ni ukweli tunataka power. Power.
You know, something very interesting how the world is structured. The ability to get that power also depends on something called experience. Okay? And if you are not careful, you may find that you are outplayed. Okay?
Yeah.
And sometimes, yes, it might be also dangerous to get that power before you learn the repercussions of that power. Okay? So it is logical that at some point you may have to support even people who are older, whose time is appearing to be ending. But the point is, you must be able to understand, as you want that power. You know, it might be power by what is called proxy. Power by proxy means that it is somebody who is in power, but is articulating what you feel is your thought and your desires. Okay? So, if I may ask as youth, what are the things you want to be articulated? Maybe I could make it easier for you because you went through some of these things. You probably want fairness. You probably want justice. Isn't that true? Okay. You want a situation where, like, if you went to school, then when you come out of school, if you scored at university, you scored honors degree, first class, then if the job says that it is first class people who get it, then you should get it. Because that was the promise of the job. If, for example, it says that you should have an attached other issues to it, then you look for that and you get it, and you go to look for the job and you get that job on the basis of that fairness. I'm sure that's what you wanted. Okay? That's also what we wanted when we were vijana wa jana. And some of us, in fact, we missed that. So the question is, why do you think we missed it? Because we have reached a point where things don't seem to work. Why do you think that happened?
So, for me, when I look at where our government has been, to the point, I believe 2002 was a turning point for the nation, coming from a point when we could have one person sitting in presidency for so long. And 2002, things started looking up as if there is a change that is coming in. 2005 paved way for the referendum, where now the voice of the people actually came out and it really mattered. And then later on we had the 2010 constitution. Yes, that now has really amplified our voice out here. So when I look back from where you guys are coming from, even though you had a desire, you had something that you wanted, fairness, inclusion into politics or governments, but then things were a little bit tough for you back then. And for us, we have grown in a generation where Kenya has become so democratic. We are able to freely speak. And so at times I look at it and see that because the people in leadership or our leadership, most of them are coming from ile where they were penye walikuwa nafinywa sana, and now that they are the same people who have to implement now this fairness, inclusivity. So at times, as much as we have the leeway of just speaking our minds, but then ni kama tunafinywa. Yeah, we can speak. Like you have said, the youth form the bulk of the population, 70-80%. But then the decision making lies with a small percentage of the government or of the population. So utapata, despite of the fact that we are pushing for this fairness, inclusivity and all, but at the long run, the people who make the decisions, bado wako. The population who are making the decision for the larger body, for the larger 70-80%, ni watu kidogo. Unaona? So at times, I feel as a young person, even though we are making our voices made known, but it's not being really heard on the spaces where it really matters. So probably a change may be like, we have youth in the decision-making bodies, people who carry the heart for the young people, people whom we can really relate with. Tuanzie na hapo, because there was a time hadi tulikuwa tunaona youth leader. Youth leader is old. Is not youth, but is a youth leader. Unaona? So tunataka a youth leader mwenye anakaa is youth. You see, so that tukisema something, they can actually embrace it. Naone, if indeed it's coming from a youth and being carried by a youth, it can be implemented easily, as opposed to coming from the youth and being carried by older persons. So zingine watakoleta itu ni mambo ya vijana, acha tuache. So let us, for me, I think that if we have youth included in the decision-making bodies, then changes can start working.
Can you throw some spanners in your argument? Do you believe that youthfulness in itself creates fairness?
Not quite.
So what if you elect that youthful leader and then it becomes a dictator?
That's
what happens?
What if we elect a youthful leader and he becomes a dictator?
At any level, and we have seen it.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, in Kenya, the mistake we always make is that we focus only on one. Okay? But let for now, just focus at leadership, being leadership in general.
Okay.
Whether we are talking from presidency, we are talking from the governors, we are talking at the level of MPs, senators, and MCS. Let's talk of youth leadership. So at any level there, elect a youth leader who is not a fair leader. Then what happens?
Things will still crumble.
So how do you stop it?
So probably we may, I'm thinking now from that perspective of, if we have systems that have been really put in place, say for instance, if we are talking like the presidency, we are not looking at the person per se, but we are looking at what that office looks like. So that if, whether that person is a hyper person or a poor person, but because of the systems that have been set in place, it will naturally flow into the benefit of the people. So probably if we are able to work on the systems, the policies governing those offices, so that in the long run, hata venye you are saying, if a young person came into position and they do not have the heart, or they do not have the proper ethics, they would just follow the same line as the older people that we're trying to remove from office. So if we have systems and policies governing these systems such that any person who comes in, despite of their strengths or weaknesses, the systems remain in place. Yeah, so probably you can help us see from that lens.
Okay, for me, I'm thinking, because whatever we're talking about here, most of what you're talking about is revolving around leadership. So I'm just thinking, is it that us, like, young people don't understand, like, the complexity of leadership, like what it takes even to be that person that you want to bring that change? Maybe you can help us break down the hard part of these leadership positions, so that we understand.
Now, I'll try to be very simple here, because some of these things, they look complex, but actually they're very simple. Leadership is not a rocket science concept. Leadership is very basic, but it depends on certain things. Like, number one, it has to depend on agreed concept. You played any games as children?
Yeah.
Maybe like either kati, or hide and seek, or whatever it is, or football or whatever. Now, either deliberately or out of convention, after a while, people agree on the rules of the game. Okay? People agree on the rules of the game. Isn't that true?
True.
Any game, even the kati, we played kati, the 60s, by the 60s. And when you play, it is like, if the ball, if I remember well, if the ball hits you, then you must go to the end to be the one throwing the ball to the person in the middle. Okay? That was agreed. That was the rule. And everybody who gets into that game accepts that that is what we will play like. And if you don't accept, you will be sidelined. Okay? In any human situation, that is how people start. That when we get to an ecosystem of anything we are doing, there are rules which govern that. And if that ecosystem requires a leader, then you will find there are rules of either selecting a leader or which the leader must follow. Otherwise, they either get removed or they get either punished or redirected. Okay? Now, every nation in this world has a set of rules. In fact, not just nation, every organization. You go to a school, you went to schools. When you arrive in the school, so there is something called the school rules. And either it will be posted on a board somewhere or something like that. And you break these rules, then what happens? You feel the consequences must catch up. Okay? So, the first basic thing about governance is rules. In fact, the fact that rules are made tells you that we recognize that people are prone to overstep their mandate. That's why rules are made. It's made, one, to ensure that those who are exuberant with energy, too much energy, or too much energy can even be the bad energy, they are brought under control. And also those who are weak, who cannot speak for themselves, are protected. In any system, that's why you have rules. Okay? And then the rules also will promote growth. Okay? Like a nation, you'll find rules which ensure that we move forward. Like we have budgets. That's why we have the budget. And the rules are set very clearly. And then it is set who can set the budget and who can use, like, do you know that, for example, in the Kenyan situation, for example, the presidency doesn't set the budget. You know that? In 2024, when there were demonstrations, the demonstrations were focused on who?
The presidents.
No.
In the finance bill.
Why did people go to parliament? Why did people walk to hospitals? I wasn't there because I was not youth. But why was the demonstration focused on parliament? Why? We are going to occupy parliament. Wasn't that the call?
Yeah.
Occupy
You people got it right, but apparently you people didn't realize that you got it right. Okay? The people who are passing the finance bill were members of parliament. Okay?
Okay.
And you people rightly focused on them. Okay? It is them who set the bill. It is them who propose taxes. Okay? So, for me, I find it incredible. In fact, it's incredulous. that here you have members of parliament standing up, okay, and saying that, for example, the president has hiked, he's borrowed too much, and yet they sit in parliament and sanction that borrowing. Yeah? You are married, you don't give your wife money to buy food, but you want the food.
It's indeed
You
incredible.
are doing something which it's unbelievable.
Sure.
Huh? The president uses money which you pass to them. And if he uses money beyond the allocations, there are very clear set rules of sanctioning that. You've heard of somebody called the budget person, and then there is the auditor general.
Yes.
Where does the auditor general report? Do you know?
Thank you.
No, we don't.
They pass in parliament. They give a report which is read in parliament. Why? Because those are the people with the authority. So why are we focusing on the wrong place?
Okay.
I'm not saying the president, for example, if you follow this debate, for example, or any governor is right. What I'm saying is, when the laws were set, they were set knowing very well that we are not electing angels into post offices.
Wow. That's
The laws
interesting.
knew very well. If you read the constitution and the law, it is very clear that the laws are stating we are electing somebody we know who is going to sidestep this rule. And therefore, we are giving this person authority to make sure that they control this person.
Okay.
Now, if this person says, oh, like Kenya, we like saying, oh, he bribes us. If he bribes you, shouldn't you just rush yourself to jail? I mean, shouldn't you rush yourself to jail? You are telling us you've committed a bigger criminal offense. And then you are standing up there saying very confidently that the governor bribed us, that is why as MCAs we voted. Or the president bribed us, that is why as MPs we voted. What are you saying? I mean, please explain that to me. Does it make sense to you?
But now, if I can ask you,
Yes.
we are talking about Parliament being the one that begins the laws and all, and the presidency is just to assent the bill into law. So what we have seen from our government, where when the presidency comes in, normally what they do is to look for the majority rule within the parliament, so that at least their policies are the ones that are running within the parliament. So with that one, how do we now as young people trust even in the fact that the state members of parliament would still advocate for things that are for us as opposed to things that are for the government or for the president?
No.
Yeah.
Wait, this is a very incredible
Incredible.
conversation. And
No, it's incredible.
Incredible.
A person becomes incredulous.
Okay.
Because I don't believe that.
Very incredible conversations, guys. And where? Hey, leo sasa ndio tunasikia ukweli, si ndio?
It's hot.
Yeah, so we're going to take a short break. We want you to before we come back, and now we will now unpack whatever that question.
Okay.
And so let's take a short break. Stay tuned, guys. Enjoy the break.
Sechochopo maya wanya goreban iga beach kako kagile kora Sechochopo maya wanya goreban iga beach kako kagile wondo jo Moko wajadiera moko jo kisera Totodgi opando mananda gila gili gangla mambanga Manga bugalaka.
Welcome back to the DUOL Podcast. We are unpacking, or we are just having a conversation of the youth and the leadership. We are trying to unpack, and this conversation is hot. Ni moto hapa hivi, wacha nikwambie ma facts tu. Tunasikia hapa ma facts. Unasikia joto kama mimi? Facts na facts. Yeah, but it's an interesting conversation and we love it. You had asked a question about when the president comes in and there are members of the parliament, and now whereby how they are.
Yeah, Daktari has told us that it is the parliamentarians who make the laws.
Okay.
So we see a scenario whereby when the president comes into power, normally they look for the majority within the parliament.
Yes.
So how do we now trust that the parliamentarians, the laws and the policies that they'll be running for are for the people or they are for the president? Yeah.
Okay. That sounds like a very difficult question, but it might not be. If you remember, a few years ago, it was, I don't know how old it is now, because that was like about 10, 15 years ago or so. No, it was less than that. It was a young fellow, came from Homa Bay. And I remember he was reading for people the Constitution. And he was talking, I would like to read it, also chapter 1, sovereignty of the people and supremacy of this Constitution. Remember, he was talking of, he said that all sovereign power belongs to the people of Kenya. And shall, and he kept on, I remember, he kept on repeating, and shall, mandatory, exercised only in accordance with the Constitution. Then he says, the people may exercise that sovereign power directly or through their democratically elected representatives. So that was the concern. The people, power belonging to the people is a mandatory concept. Power being exercised through the leaders is optional. And remember that young man, actually, he was pursuing something in parliament, and why he said that, he was being told, no, you should leave it to your MP, so that your MP is the one who can pursue this. And he said, no, I am right, and I'm rightfully here, and I'm presenting this thing correctly. To me, if we, and especially the younger people, learned this concept, that actually the power is theirs. So that, right now, most young people think that when they get into those circles it is like they're interfering. So
Okay.
first they must be elected as MP before they get to that circle, because they see that they are interfering. No. Your engagement in how things run should be direct when you think that the people you have exercised the power by giving them the right to handle are not doing it right. You're supposed to get in and interfere. And you don't only wait until you do a mass action. No, it should be continuous. Many countries where democracy works well, it's actually conducted that way. That citizens interfere. In Kenya, if you start doing that, you'll be accused of interfering. No, let us learn how to interfere in everyday life of running of the parliament. If there is a budget which is being run wrongly or being presented wrongly, a citizen has a right. First, through what is called public participation, which is okay, but public participation does not stop you from interfering at a later stage. Public participation is just a convenient way of starting it down so that we have convergence of ideas and we have consensus. Okay? But at a later level, if you interpret things differently and you think your interpretation is correct from the majority, you have a right. Okay? Because in law, the majority is not necessarily right. It is the legal issue which is right. So if the MPs are doing something wrongly and you as citizens think they are not doing it correctly, you are not interfering. Okay? Now, the problem is with our era. We lived in an era of single party, first of all, and we lived in an era of post-independence. If you go to your homes in your villages, you might hear some statements like somebody was picked up and went whether with the police or with somebody, or even just anybody picked somebody and went with them roughly by force, very fast. Na usikie neno kama huyu alipelekwa na 210. Have you heard something like that? 210? Yeah. Ati huyu alichukuliwa hapa na 210. You've heard that? You know what that 210 is?
Okay, si 210 sasa tunajua ni ya unga. Kuna unga.
210 tunajua ni unga.
Maybe the Unga people were playing. They were playing on that joke. Okay.
Okay.
210, I think, was the 210 was chapter 210 of it was passed from the British colonial area.
Okay.
And we got it. And that was called the Chiefs Act.
Okay.
The Chiefs Act allowed the chief to just arrest you anytime he wants, number one. The chief had so much power.
Yeah.
I tell you, if somebody died in a village, any situation which was going to have more than 3 people meeting, the chief had to give authority. So if your father has died, you've taken him, either he died in the hospital and you want to hold, of course you'll be holding meeting, the funeral wake. So you go first. Once you just arrive home and you bring the morning, the traditionally you come and mourn at home.
Yeah.
Immediately you finish, one person must go to the chief and get an authorization. Our father has died. Please allow us to hold a meeting at our home. Because if you had a meeting of more than 3 people, that would be a meeting, and the chief can come and arrest everybody with that cap 210. Okay? Na atawapeleka na hiyo 210.
Okay.
Na mtalala kwa jela.
Is that law still there?
Well, it was repealed during this new constitution.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. We were born in 210. I was born during the colonial era. Okay? When the chiefs were powerful. After independence, our leadership did not change it. Our parliament did not change it. We lived with it. We lived with it even after President Moi changed the constitution. I agreed for the change of constitution in 1992. It was still there, and it was only changed when during the change of the constitution. The constitution after the referendum. That's when it was changed. Okay, so the 210 was there. So we are living in generations who are in leadership who are either born in 210 or lived with 210. 10
Yeah.
most of their lives.
Okay.
So they don't understand that they can even be questioned. You know? They don't understand. Most of the leadership at all levels do not just understand that questioning your leadership is not insulting your intelligence. It's just saying, no, we are interpreting this thing differently.
Yeah.
So can we agree to interpret it according to the law? Okay? Now, unfortunately, even people who are opposing also are living in the total. Some of them just think things must be forced. Okay? And instead of having intelligent conversations where we are saying, I'm reading the Constitution from this perspective, can we also read it from this perspective? What is your perspective? And we agree. No. Most of it we have to see. Okay? And there's a term sometimes I use which I'll be forgiven. I say sometimes politicians, I sometimes call them politicians because they actually pollute. They change the meanings so that even where we have agreed, we have agreed this is the concept. We have elected this leader on this concept. And then you find they pollute minds and change. You know, when 2002, the main drive when President Kibaki was elected was that we should do away, especially with corruption. Yes. Because that is one thing which is destroying a lot of things. You know, it's actually the core of what is bringing the rot in our society, and most of these issues is corruption. Okay? So now I remember that time I was staying in Kitengela. And I just took a matatu just to see how the situation is. And I'm shocked. There was a conductor who gave a policeman something. And one of the people noticed and said, no, wait, what is that you've given? You know, ni kitu kidogo. Yes, why? What have we done wrong? We have belts. Just listen. Everybody says, but we have tied our belts. Okay, we are okay. What is the problem? What is the problem? Oh no, it is for. Let's go back. We go driver to Rudy. So everybody forced the driver. And we told the police, what is it you taking? Why? They returned it. And they returned it and people went on. That was the spirit. But then what happened? Soon after that, in the next few months, unfortunately that time the president also got a bit angry. People suddenly realized, oh, they are regions. They are regions. We belong here. This belongs there. And that is where now I say the politicians polluted the minds. So where the focus had been on doing away with corruption, doing away with illegalities, etc., suddenly we realized, no, let us do away with people who don't belong to certain regions, so that now we focus on regions. We forgot. The pollution came in there. And once that pollution came, do you know the strength of kinship? The strength of kinship is just too powerful. It supersedes law. The moment you've invoked that this is my mother, that this is my father, that this is my brother, once you invoked that, almost immediately laws become irrelevant. And that is the pollution I talk about. So you can have an agenda where you say, okay, let us change issues. And then they come and say, okay, after you've changed them, once it is convenient for them, then they suddenly remind you. But you know, you don't belong to our clan. And it is not only at national levels, no, even at clan levels. You suddenly hear somebody say, no, you know, your clan, I don't know, did what? Oh, suddenly you realize that, for example, the Kikuyu nation does not only exist of one group, then suddenly you hear, oh, they are Maasai Kikuyus, oh, they are Meru Kikuyus, oh, they are some from, I don't know, the forest. Then
duos. Oh, they are sober duos. Oh, they are duo from where? Oh, they are lawyer duos. Oh, they are, and then you hear, oh, even the lawyers. Now you've gone down the level. Yeah? So you are in Western, then suddenly you hear, oh, in Suha. This is Bukusu. Oh, this is, that is the pollution I'm talking about. So if you are tuned, remember in 2022, there is something when the demonstration started, I really loved. What were the words you were using? You were leaderless.
Leaderless.
Tribeless
and fearless.
Yeah.
Tribeless was very strong there. But if I ask you now, out of that group, are they still tribeless? Are they still tribeless?
Not quite.
Okay. Leaderless, I had issues with. Because you can't have a very huge group which are leaderless. That might have been a technical error the youth had.
Yeah.
Because you must have leaders. The only thing probably you should have said, you don't have enshrined leaders. Leaders who once now you have sat there, then you are leaders. No. Leaders are situational.
Yeah.
If in this situation you are not a good leader, you move. Yeah. So in the next situation, we might have started walking from this position and we move to the next position.
Yeah.
And in that next position, my attributes which made me a leader here do not allow me to be a leader there. Then I should move out of leadership and you take over if your attributes are best. So if you look at it from that concept, then I agree that leaderless concept was good. Okay? But you cannot have a group of 1,000 people moving without a leader. Okay? That might be a disaster. The third one was fearless. I think fearless should be there. Okay?
Yes.
Fearless, but not irrational. Okay? You can have fear, okay? But not irrational.
Yeah.
There are certain times where there is also respect. The two terms sometimes confuse me. Yeah. I think respectful should be there. You may be fearless, but you should be respectful.
Wow, this is interesting. We are really learning. I think there's something powerful you've said from that story. Yeah, the one people in a matatu. You are the you were in a matatu and then the conductor tried to.
Not tried, he bribed.
Oh, he bribed.
And people pushed it, sent him back. We went back.
This should be happening right now.
That was 2003.
Siku hizi yani ni kama tu ni sana. The new norm, like ina happen to anashuka tu dakika mbili tumepita, like I don't know where we are heading.
So if it is the norm at that level, how high should it not be the norm? You see, that is the point. So as youth, where should you start?
From the ground.
Now that as we come to the end of the podcast, now
the village,
that's where
it goes from the village elder right up. Anybody given any responsibility, and the responsibility, we always confuse that responsibility of leadership only falls with political leadership. No. I was a doctor for many years, and I was managing a system. Okay, in my ecosystem, I was the leader. Okay, you have leadership in churches. You have even leadership. If you are a class monitor, that's leadership. Okay.
Yeah.
And you should take charge of that leadership in the same fair way. That gives you the authority to actually demand better from somebody.
I have something to ask you.
Yes.
Shed more light on it. So you talked about the 210 chiefs had that power and all, but also as young people, we observe things that are happening within the political environment. And one of them, I realized that Kenya is a democratic nation, but there are statements that have been made within the political field, and one of them that I remember was that some of our leaders suggested that even though we are a democratic country, some dictatorship is necessary to push agendas. It's like they're implying that because of democracy, where you have to hear the views of different people, it takes a lot of time for things to be set in place. What do you think about these kind of statements where from a political place they're suggesting that we have to have dictatorship on certain things for agendas to run?
Do you know, situation where things have to be done and where minimal questioning will be allowed, actually is there even in our constitution. Okay? In situations like, for example, disaster situations, okay? In situations where there is certain level of turmoil, okay? The constitution gives the leadership authority, but there is a framework for it. Okay? So, if, for example, you declare disaster, the leadership has certain authority to do certain things. But where we have not declared disaster, it means things should be managed without dictatorship. So why are you forcing dictatorship on something which should be sorted just by discussion? Okay? So that's why I was saying the makers of our constitution, if you read the constitution, you'll find that people went into there's a lot of thought. Even up to the point where there is thought about changing it and adjusting it if things are not acceptable. That's why we have referendum. But the bar is set at a certain level so that you just don't wake up and say, okay, we're holding a referendum. Okay? That's the whole reason. So all these things have been thought of. So when you come out from the blue and you say, okay, we want to have dictatorship in how, for example, we will take you to school. And the constitution gives very clear ways of how that should be done. Then you're just trying to bypass systems. That's corruption.
So on that one, because you talked about the Gen Zs, leaderless, fearless, tribeless. One of the things that they were really pursuing was accountability. And so even on that regard, how do we still hold them accountable, having seen what transpired in 2024 and what we are today? How do we hold these people accountable?
That's the point I told you, and that's why I gave the example of the Homa Bay guy. I come from Homa Bay, so I was very proud of him. And you know, he was speaking Homa Bay English. You know, when he was saying, for example, Sal, Sal, you know, May and Sal, you know, that fellow took himself. If you look at him, he was probably not your multimillionaire. Yeah. You have not heard of him, so he's not a PhD holder somewhere. Okay? But that is an individual who took it upon himself to make his voice be heard without shouting in a mob. That's the kind of thing I'm saying. If we want to change this country, we have to stop this podium, what is it called? Activism. Okay? Podium activism, where you stand up, insult people, and say certain things which move them emotionally, even if they are wrong, and then you start now classifying people, wale. You know, when you start talking, nyinyi, wale. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. The Gen Zs must move away from and go to substantive action. If you think that this thing is going to affect my life in the next 50 years, the Constitution gives you a right. By the way, walking to Parliament and even giving a petition doesn't require millions. That's a fact. Yeah. So we should educate our agencies to learn that you can change things by actually just walking to these places and giving a petition. You will not be shot. Yeah. That's a fact. Yeah. That is what we should learn. We should not wait to hear one person called a politician, who should actually be called a politician, standing up and polluting your mind, telling you, you know, that is your enemy. Your problems are coming in this country because this guy belongs to this tribe. That's wrong. It can't explain anything. Because what we know is that these people called politicians actually belong to a club. The group today opposing the other one, tomorrow they'll be eating together.
Yeah.
And today, you know, you are so charged up because you're opposing the other guy and you think your guy is opposing. Tomorrow, when now these guys suddenly are embracing each other, eating together, driving in the same car, where does he leave you and you have been hitting your neighbor? Are you seeing? It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So we should, or you should as Gen Zs, move away from that, recognize issues. Okay? What are your issues? Your issues, for example, like now, fuel is too high, cost of living is too high. Okay? She may be coming from a different tribe, but that interest she shares with you. Okay? Do you think fuel now is rising only for the people who don't belong to governors, to governors' tribes? Or the president or the vice president, the deputy president's tribe? It's everybody.
It's everybody.
Yeah. So, when we are talking about such issues, okay, there are issues which belong to a tribe, like their cultural issues. Let those ones be sorted at the tribal level. But issues which, for example, cut across everything, they should be sorted by an attitude which cuts across. Okay? So, if, for example, you think fuel is too high, and you think fuel is too high, and you think EPRA has no mandate to do that, pick your bags, go to the correct place where that should be sorted. Even though you may be from two different tribes, okay, work together because that is something which affects both of you. Go and change it together. Okay? Don't wait for the politician to stand up and tell you, you know, this fuel is rising up because there is this tribe and this tribe and this tribe and this tribe and this. Some things are just unbelievable. Even for us as people to even accept to think that way, and sometimes we can't believe. So, as the youth, if you want to run this country well for the next 50 years, before you reach our age, that's what you should do.
Wow. Okay, we're almost coming to the end of our discussion today, and it's been amazing unpacking both sides of leadership and the youth and understanding where the disconnect comes, right? Yeah, and maybe as we finish up, maybe I can give. For me, I have learned to. I think what I've picked. I'm going home with that. I can interfere, but with understanding and dignity. So, you're watching us. Unaweza andika hapo kwa comments what you've heard as a young person. Teddy, maybe unaweza tuambia yako.
I think on the aspect that power is with us. Mara nyingi as young people, we do not understand that we have that power.
Yeah.
So the knowledge that we have that power, and we step away from looking at leaders as the solution to our problems, but we are able to actually move into the right offices with the power in our hand and actually see the changes being made.
So tusitake tu power bure. Lakini bado tuko na power.
In fact, sasa tuko na power. So it's just for us to channel it in the right direction.
True. Yeah. Thank you so much, Daktari. Thank you so much, Teddy. I think we should do this again, sure. There's a lot to unpack when it comes to the Constitution and things like that. And so we're going to have another one soon. So stay tuned. And also like this video, share, comment, and also watch our, there are other many videos we have recorded in the DUOL Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, of course. We are the DUOL Podcast, where real people talk, real people have conversations, and where real growth begins. See you next. Bye.